Hello, I'm Robin Haley, and I'm in charge of Alan Carr's worldwide clinic network. I've personally helped thousands of smokers to quit. I chose this profession because I was a chain smoker for years. I really wanted to stop, but I couldn't. After countless failed attempts, I tried Alan Carr's method. It worked, it was easy, I've never missed it, and I've been a happy non-smoker ever since. We have here a group of people representing a wide range of smokers, and you'll see them from time to time, illustrating certain points as we go through the DVD. Stopping smoking is in fact easy. You just have to use the right method. You don't need willpower, you don't have to go through any trauma, you don't need to put on weight. Just relax, it's going to be fun. All you have to do is watch this DVD in one sitting with an open mind, concentrate and follow the instructions. Make sure you're not going to be disturbed, turn off the telephone and remove any distractions. Make yourself comfortable, relax. Do you feel like having a cigarette? If so, go ahead. If you smoke roll-ups, cigars or a pipe, or chew or suck tobacco products, or take nicotine in any form, the same applies. Everything I'm about to tell you is true for all products which contain nicotine, and one of the great advantages of Easy Way is that you can continue to smoke while going through the process of stopping. By the end, you'll be happy to put out your final cigarette and become a non-smoker. Imagine for a moment this scene.
Look, this prison is not good for your health. Your wife and children are very worried about you. Just be sensible and get out of this place.
That doctor is clearly talking nonsense. But didn't he sound rather like a doctor trying to persuade a smoker to stop? Don't worry, I won't be using shock tactics. They don't work. Smokers aren't stupid. You know it's killing you and costing you a fortune. You've been told that often enough. It makes you want to stop, but it doesn't help you to do it. Does dieting make food less precious? No, more so. Also, stress makes you want to smoke. Tell a smoker it's killing them, the first thing they'll reach for is a cigarette. What the prisoner needs is not a lecture in the obvious, but the key to his prison. Smokers are in exactly the same position, and Alan Carr's method is the key. You feel trapped. You know you should stop, but that doesn't help you do it. Cigarettes are controlling your life. You feel like a slave. These are all reasons for stopping, but you don't smoke for the reasons you shouldn't smoke. You smoke for the reasons you do smoke. Once you realize that the reasons you smoke are illusions, then stopping will be easy. Of course, you could argue that whereas the prisoner in the cell has no choice, smokers choose to smoke. But do they? When did you choose to become a smoker? Do you choose to remain a smoker? Presumably not, since you're watching this. In fact, the vast majority of smokers admit they would rather be non-smokers, which means they're not choosing to smoke. Smoking is an addiction, which denies freedom of choice. It enslaves the addict. The trap works in a similar way to a pitcher plant, which feeds off flying insects. The plant gives off a scent which the insect finds irresistible. The inside of the plant is coated with a delicious nectar, which the insect consumes. A combination of gravity and the lie of the hairs on the plant's surface ensure that the insect travels in one direction only, downwards, towards a pool of juices where other insects have already met their death. This doesn't bother the insect. After all, it has wings and can fly off whenever it wants to. However, the nectar is sticky and clings to its legs and wings, and by the time it's had its fill, it weighs twice as much. the more the insect struggles, the more trapped it becomes. The sides of the plant become steeper and steeper. The result is inevitable. You could argue that it chose to eat the nectar. No one forced it to. But did it choose to become trapped? Of course not. At what stage was the insect trapped? When it found it couldn't escape? No. That's just when it realized it was trapped. It was trapped from the moment it smelled the nectar. From that point on, it was being controlled by the plant and had no choice but to respond to its instincts. The pitcher plant is one of nature's ingenious confidence tricks, but it's nothing like as clever as the nicotine trap. No matter what stage you descend to, the nicotine trap makes you want to continue smoking, despite the fact that you also want to stop. No smoker chooses to smoke. We may have chosen to smoke the first experimental cigarettes, but nobody actually decides to become a smoker for life. We're lured into the trap and don't even realize we're hooked until we try to get free. All smokers hope their children won't start, which means they wish they hadn't started themselves. If you've ever made an attempt to quit, you're continuing to smoke not out of choice, but because that attempt failed. Given the choice, smokers would rather be non-smokers. So what's stopping them?
I can't enjoy a drink without a cigarette.
I get really uptight when I can't smoke.
I can't imagine enjoying a meal without a cigarette.
I panic if I'm running low on cigarettes.
I can't relax at a social occasion without a cigarette.
I need a cigarette to help me cope with the stresses and strains of life.
Whenever I've tried to stop, I've been miserable and irritable, and I can't concentrate.
I once stopped for 3 months, but the craving didn't go, and I know an ex-smoker who quit 5 years ago and is still dying for a cigarette. I'm afraid I'll suffer the craving for the rest of my life.
You do want to stop, but you think it's going to be hard and are afraid of failure. After all, you haven't succeeded yet. Perhaps you've already tried many times using nicotine substitutes like patches or gum, or acupuncture, hypnosis, or just plain willpower. But nothing seems to work. You may be convinced that it's got to be difficult, and may even be impossible. But that's only because you've gone about it the wrong way. If you try to stop without understanding why you smoke, then no matter how determined you are, your chances of succeeding are very slim indeed. So why do you smoke?
I need a cigarette to cope with stress.
I enjoy a cigarette when I'm relaxing.
It helps me concentrate.
It relieves boredom.
I like the taste.
I like the smell.
It's a social prop.
It's stylish and cool.
I like the ritual.
It's something to do with my hands.
It's oral satisfaction.
I like inhaling the smoke.
It's a crutch.
It's a pleasure.
It's company, friend.
I feel miserable without cigarettes.
It's just a habit.
I've got an addictive personality.
I'm a nicotine addict.
I don't know.
If there are so many advantages to smoking, why do smokers want to stop?
It's bad for my health.
It's costing me a fortune.
It's filthy and disgusting.
It's controlling my life.
Bad breath.
The smell of my hair and clothes.
It's antisocial.
It's making me lethargic.
It's a bad example to my children.
Stained fingers.
Stained teeth.
Coughing and wheezing.
Lack of self-respect.
Slavery.
So there's a whole set of advantages and a whole set of disadvantages. Let's look at some of the advantages. Smokers give contradictory reasons for smoking.
I need a cigarette to cope with stress.
I enjoy a cigarette when I'm relaxing.
Stress and relaxation are complete opposites.
It helps me concentrate.
It relieves boredom.
Boredom and concentration are also complete opposites. What miraculous product can do for you 1 minute the complete opposite of what it did for you an hour earlier?
I like the taste.
Taste has nothing to do with it. You don't eat cigarettes. Even if you love the taste of lobster, you never reach the stage where you have to carry lobsters with you at all times.
I like the smell.
Why not spray your house with the delightful fragrance of cigarette smoke?
In fact, the awful smell is one of the reasons why smokers want to quit. Even if you love the smell of roses, that doesn't make you want to smoke them. And most smokers actually dislike the smell of other people's cigarettes.
It's a social prop.
Ashtray.
Yeah.
No one used to smoke, huh? I'll go outside.
In fact, smoking is nowadays increasingly being recognised as very antisocial, and this is one of the reasons smokers give for stopping.
It's stylish and cool.
Do these people look less attractive without cigarettes? Of course not. The attraction lies in them, not in the cigarette. In fact, it's now widely regarded as unattractive, uncool, and unfashionable to smoke. The heroes of today's films and TV programs are increasingly non-smokers.
I like the ritual.
Heroin addicts believe they enjoy the ritual of injecting themselves. They don't. It's just the way of delivering the drug into their body. And it's not to get a high, it's to relieve the low caused by the withdrawal from the previous fix. Smokers are in exactly the same position.
It's something to do with my hands.
It's oral satisfaction.
So why light it? You could save a fortune without damaging your health at all.
I like inhaling the smoke.
That's called suffocation. The worst thing about smoking is that you have to choke yourself to death in order to do it. So why is cigarette smoke so special? Because it contains nicotine, which is a highly addictive drug. I'll explain how nicotine addiction works shortly, but first, let's look at the other reasons smokers give.
It's just a habit.
I've got an addictive personality.
I'm a nicotine addict.
I don't know.
In fact, these aren't so much reasons for smoking as excuses for not having stopped. They tend to be used by longer-term smokers who sense they're not getting any genuine advantages, but still feel unable to quit.
It's a crutch.
It's a pleasure.
It's company, a friend.
I feel miserable without cigarettes.
You still believe that smoking provides you with some genuine pleasure or crutch, and that by quitting you'd be losing a friend. And you know that on previous attempts to quit or cut down, you've been miserable. You therefore, quite understandably, have fears about stopping. These fears are the result of a lifetime's brainwashing. From birth, we're bombarded by information telling us that cigarettes relax us, relieve stress and boredom, and help us to concentrate. We're brainwashed into believing that we need them to cope with and enjoy life. Our subconscious is manipulated through marketing techniques, social images, and misconceptions. Smokers themselves, and even so-called experts, perpetuate these illusions. The result is, we don't even question them. On the other hand, we're also made aware of the terrible disadvantages of smoking. In fact, we're torn between two contradictory fears. On the one side, it's killing me, costing me a fortune, filthy, disgusting, and controlling my life. You try to block that bad side from your mind, but you never succeed. It's like a dark shadow, and while you're smoking, it just gets darker and darker, looms larger and larger. On the other side, how can I enjoy life or cope with stress without my little pleasure or crutch? You're frightened that if you stop smoking, you'll have to go through some terrible trauma, and that even if you do succeed, you may never be completely free from the desire to smoke. It never seems to dawn on the smoker that both these sets of fears are caused by smoking. Non-smokers suffer neither of them, and one of the greatest gains of being free is to end this constant battle. Once you understand the nicotine trap, then you'll see that all the reasons for smoking are illusions. You'll realise that far from being miserable as a non-smoker, you'll actually enjoy social occasions more and handle stress better. The whole object of this exercise is for you to enjoy being a non-smoker from the moment you quit. But first, you need to understand more about drug addiction. Which of these drugs do you think is most addictive? Alcohol? Cannabis? Cocaine? Heroin? Crack? No. The nicotine contained in tobacco is the most addictive drug known to mankind. The good news is that although nicotine is highly addictive, the physical withdrawal is very slight. So slight, in fact, that most smokers don't even recognise it as drug addiction. There's no physical pain. In fact, it's identical to the feeling of a hunger for food and to the feeling caused by normal stress. But even heavy smokers can go for long periods without smoking and scarcely even be aware of it, on planes for example, and it's not strong enough to wake you up at night. What's more, it gets no worse when you stop. Smokers think of withdrawal as the trauma they suffer when they try to quit by using willpower, but that's not physical, that's mental, and Easy Way removes it even before you extinguish your final cigarette. Nicotine is the colourless, oily compound contained in tobacco that addicts smokers. It's a deadly poison, and it's sold commercially as an insecticide. If you were to inject the nicotine content of just one cigarette into a vein, it would kill you. Every puff on a cigarette delivers to the brain via the lungs a small dose of nicotine that acts faster than a dose of heroin injected into a vein. Nicotine is a quick-acting drug, and levels in the bloodstream fall by about 50% 2 hours after extinguishing a cigarette. This is why most smokers average about 20 a day. As nicotine leaves the body, you experience an empty, insecure feeling, a tenseness or edginess, which I'll refer to as the itch. Smokers believe they only suffer withdrawal symptoms when they try to quit. On the contrary, they suffer them all their smoking lives. Just as we only know hunger for food as I want or need to eat, so we only know the itch as I want or need a cigarette. Most smokers can remember their first cigarette was foul. that by smoking that cigarette, you have now put a highly addictive drug into your body, and a disagreeable little character takes up residence inside you. Let's call it the little monster. This is the first of several factors that reduce a smoker's level of well-being throughout their lives. Here's a barometer showing your well-being. When you're having a great day, you're up here. When it's a terrible day, you're down here. Let's assume that when you smoke your very first cigarette, you're having a good day. Once you extinguish the cigarette, you start to experience the itch, an almost imperceptible, empty, insecure feeling, which smokers only know as, I need something to do with my hands, or I want or need a cigarette. This is in fact nicotine withdrawal. It's the little monster inside your body demanding to be fed. And your well-being drops to a lower level. If you light another cigarette within that withdrawal period, the empty, insecure feeling is immediately replaced by a feeling of satisfaction and confidence. This is not an illusion. You will actually feel more relaxed or less stressed than you did a moment before, because you have now replaced the nicotine and fed the little monster. Your level of well-being will immediately go up. The second cigarette tastes just as foul as the first, and you'll remain convinced that you could never get hooked. But you've taken the bait. What you've actually enjoyed is trying to get back to the level of well-being you had as a non-smoker. This simple confidence trick is what hooks all smokers. You may have noticed that the smoker never quite reaches the level they were at before they started smoking. This is because nicotine is a powerful drug and a poison. Our bodies build an immunity to both. Immunity is a two-edged sword. It helps protect you from the poisonous effects, but it also means that the nicotine withdrawal is only partially relieved, even when you smoke a cigarette. And the empty, insecure feeling is never completely removed. So even when you're smoking a cigarette, you actually feel more nervous and less relaxed than when you were a non-smoker. That's why, although your conscious brain knows that you should smoke less and less, the tendency is to smoke more and more. After you finish the cigarette, the level of nicotine in your body falls again, and the little monster soon demands another fix. And so it goes on and on and on. This process simply repeats itself. The only reason any smoker lights a cigarette is to feed that little monster and try to relieve the aggravation caused by the previous cigarette. It's like wearing tight shoes just to get the pleasure of taking them off. There are several reasons why smokers find it difficult to see it like this. Remember, the empty feeling is indistinguishable from hunger and normal stress, and is almost imperceptible. There's no physical pain whatsoever. Our brain is therefore fooled into believing that the empty feeling is caused by the stresses of life, whereas in fact it's caused by the withdrawal from the previous cigarette. We only know the feeling as, I want or need a cigarette. The moment we light up, we do immediately feel more relaxed, less stressed, and better able to concentrate. So the cigarette gets the credit for relieving the feeling, but not the blame for causing it in the first place. Another major factor which lowers the smoker's well-being is the disadvantages of smoking. Of course, smokers try to block these from their minds.
I could be hit by a bus tomorrow.
But would you deliberately step into its path?
I think exhaust fumes cause more damage than smoking.
But would you put your mouth over an exhaust pipe and deliberately inhale the fumes? As a smoker, you not only suffer the harmful effects of pollution, but also the much more harmful effects of smoking.
I can afford to smoke.
Well, good for you, but isn't it a bit stupid to set light to £50,000? After all, that's what the average British smoker spends on cigarettes in their lifetime. Possibly the worst aspect on the health side is not the risk of killer diseases like lung cancer. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not belittling those diseases. But all our smoking lives, we block them from our mind, promising ourselves we'll quit tomorrow. It's like a time bomb ticking away. We hope that it'll never happen, or that by some miracle we'll have quit before it does. But the moment we start smoking, we're not only congesting our lungs with tars and other poisons, we're also systematically and progressively gunging up our blood vessels. We're starving every muscle and organ in our body of oxygen and the vital minerals which we need to enjoy our lives to the full. Because this deterioration happens gradually, we aren't even aware of it. It's like growing old. It's not until we see a photograph taken 10 years earlier that we notice the difference. Provided you keep fit and healthy, this aging process need not adversely affect the quality of your life. But regularly poisoning your body does affect it. You become breathless, permanently lethargic, and wake up feeling tired even after a full night's sleep. And the vital parts of your body which are most affected by this poisoning and starvation are your heart, your brain, and your immune system. How can your brain concentrate properly if it's not only being distracted by withdrawal, but also starved of oxygen? Did you know that smoking coagulates your blood? How can you expect your heart to continue to pump increasingly coagulated blood through increasingly restricted blood vessels?